Daybreak Africa is your one-stop top-notch breakfast show that brings you all the interesting stories happening in and around Africa.
Because we have all the morning essentials,
including the latest news, sports, weather, and events. And of course, the people.
Daybreak Africa on Television Nigeria.
Weekdays, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Good morning and welcome to Daybreak Africa. My name is Messi Joe.
A very beautiful good morning to you. Of course, it's another interesting edition of your one-stop breakfast show, Daybreak Africa on Television Nigeria. My name is Elvis Oga. Happy New Month.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Happy New Month, everyone. Happy New Month, my
Same to you.
I almost forgot it was a new month.
Yesterday, you were actually running faster than time. And
I
then
thought
today,
yesterday. And today, finally, it's here and I've forgotten.
I wish you the very best of everything.
I wish you the same too. You know, talking about one stop, you know, Susan and I the other day, we saw one bread.
You were talking about
one
it.
stop. And,
you just run a free promo for them.
No. No.
All right, talking about the good tidings for the new month.
All right.
Just yesterday,
the Supreme Court affirmed the victory of Yahaya Bello as the governor of Kogi State under APC. And I think the election held November 2019, last year. And then the SDP and PDP, they rejected the judgment, saying there were rigging, overvoting, and violence. So it couldn't have been very accurate. That's coming from the SDP and PDP.
It's actually very sad and quite sad that we've seen what has been characterizing the polls from this part of the country. You know, it's not really peculiar to Kogi State. Across the nation, when elections are being held, we keep hearing of cases of so many irregularities, ranging from ballot box snatching, vote violence, and all. Even if you recall what happened in Kogi State, I think there was a situation of a women leader who actually lost her lives due to some of those malpractices that characterize our elections and all. But like I say, it's quite sad that it's not only peculiar to Kogi State, but you know, in the face of all of these things, that's why we have to find a way of actually applauding the electoral empire, talking about the INEC for finding way around these things, and then see that at the end of the day, the whole process is not stopped, that we can point some people and say these are the winners and all. But you know, subsequently, Nigerians have actually been clamoring for a better electoral practice.
So we don't
level playing ground.
So the reasons why they are taking to court at the end of the day is not be over the fact that there was rigging. Like now they said over voting, probably collation from a particular community or town, and they see it's probably 1 million or 1,000 persons there, and then you now see a vote for a particular candidate above 1,000. At that point in time, you start asking yourself, does it make any sense? Now the SDP candidate, I think she's a woman. So she came out and she said, like in a statement yesterday, she was saying, I'm not disappointed. I am not, she's not disappointed or surprised by the judgment, but she's saddened because she said each and every other time, once there's a ruling party in the country, obviously you just expect that that's who will take it.
You know, that statement speaks volume, because, you know, when she said each and every time, once there's a ruling party and then there actually litigation concerning electoral cases, it's
always obvious who will take the victory.
At the end of the day, that's even one side of it. The other side is that, you know, and I look at when elections are being held across the country, maybe after the general elections, the one that are being held across various states, like the local government elections, you see that whichever party the governor of the state comes from, takes the day. Like, it's more like a landslide or sweeping victory, and then you begin to question so many things, like how did it happen and all.
Yeah.
That was why what happened in Kaduna State last year was actually generating a whole lot of applause for the governor of Kaduna State when he conducted an elections, and we had other parties apart from his party emerge victorious, and then there were some places where his party even emerged victorious, and he ordered for cancellation, or the electoral empire in the state ordered for cancellation, mentioning some irregularities or malpractices. People were like, if other states can actually do like that, it will go a long way.
Yeah.
But you know, another thing I want us to take a look at is the fact that you know, the major players, when we have any contest, we all know that when there's a contest, you have somebody who emerge victorious, and then the rest we maybe have to take it the way at that time. But we've seen times with that number that when it favors someone, the process is good, but it doesn't favor you.
The process is always bad. I don't know why it's always like that in our system.
And then you begin to question, where is the spirit of sportsmanship?
Exactly. Where is even the spirit of patriotism?
You get.
Now, see Yahaya Bello yesterday in the message, he was saying this victory calls for more service, irrespective of whoever emerged victorious at the end of the day. No, this is for us, this is for the Kogi people. So we should put aside sentiments, we should put aside the feeling of failure and say, let's come together and make Kogi a better state. That was his message yesterday.
It's quite a very good one. We just hope that these words came from his heart, and then at the end of the day, if the PDP candidate and the SDP candidate are complaining and be like, okay, our governor, we are here, this is what we were bringing to the table, and this is what you were bringing, or you are bringing to the table. How about we synergizing and then make Kogi a better place for the indigenes of Kogi State? It would be a very nice thing. Exactly. That's what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking about.
And for him to actually extend this hand of fellowship, we're expecting the aggrieved parties, which have actually, we've seen the end of it yesterday by the appellate court, open up their arms as well to receive this hand of fellowship that's been extended by the governor of Kogi State, and see how they can come together, put their heads together, and make Kogi a better place for the indigenes of Kogi State. Yeah,
I think the priority right now of the governor, the victorious governor, and the other aspirants who wanted to be the governor of that particular state, the major priority now is to make sure Kogi State is a better state. That's all. We come together, we put our head together. Irrespective, there will always be a winner, and there will always be who didn't win. I don't want to say the other word. There will always be who didn't win, but then moving forward, everything has to be fine.
Exactly.
So right about now, it's time to go to the news desk to get news from Susan Achin.
Your body bang, bang, your body bang, 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 your body bang, your body bang. Fire, fire. And I give us when you take a selfie, when you take a pose, you the ginger the boy. Every time you bend the low, I'm a girl when you take a selfie. When you take a pose, you the ginger the boy. Every time you bend it low.
Want to shoot a dope music video at 50% discount?
50% discount?
Yeah, 50% discount. Bougie Down to Television Nigerian with world-class equipment and a badass expert crew.
Oga, face your camera now. Shh. Continue.
Where was I? Everything extra.
Carolina, you bada.
Hurry up.
I know say you know this thing you did do, my girl, say you know. Your body is big and I know say you know.
Good morning and welcome to AM News. I'm Susan Achin. Nigeria's COVID-19 cases have crossed 54,000 after 143 fresh infections were confirmed on Monday. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control and CDC said the new cases reported in 17 states and the Federal Capital Territory take the number of confirmed infections in the country to 54,008. Of the number of cases, 41,638 persons have been treated and discharged from several states in the country, with 1,013 deaths, however, confirmed from the pandemic. Meanwhile, barely 24 hours after Nigeria reported its lowest number of coronavirus cases in 4 months, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has warned Nigerians to remain vigilant. PTF Chairman and Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, gave the caution on Monday at the briefing of the task force in Abuja. An hour ahead of the resumption of international flights in the country, the federal government has vowed to sanction air passengers who fail to comply with the guidelines put in place to flatten the COVID-19 curve. Speaking during a briefing in Abuja on Monday, the coordinator of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Dr. Sani Aliyu, said the government is committed to the safety and security of Nigerians. Aliyu said the PTF is working with relevant stakeholders in the aviation sector to ensure that Nigeria does not witness a fresh spike of infections. And on the entertainment scene, Week 7's head of house games in the Big Brother Niger house has seen Erica emerge winner, her second win since the show kicked off. The head of house games sported a few additions to its usual dice game, and so Erica beat the housemates to the highest spot. It appears the week kicked off with a few changes to the game. This time, Biggie instructed the newest head of house to select her deputy in 1 minute, as opposed to the 20-minute timeline from the preceding weeks. For her deputy, Erica nominated Prince, and they both selected Trickety and Dorothy as guests with limited access to the HOH lounge. And that's it on AM News. I am Susan Achin. Daybreak Africa continues shortly. Stay with us.
Your body bang, bang, your body bang, 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 your body bang, bang, your body bang. Fire, fire, fire. And I give us when you take a selfie, when you take a pose, you the ginger the boy. Every time you bend the low, come on girl when you take a selfie. When you take a pose, you the ginger the boy. Every time you bend it low.
Want to shoot a dope music video at 50% discount?
50% discount?
Yeah, 50% discount. Bougie down to Television Nigerian with world-class equipment and a badass expert crew.
Oga, face your camera now. Shh. Shh. Continue.
Where was I? Everything extra.
Carolina, you bada.
Hurry up.
I know say you know this thing you did do, my girl, say you know. Your body is big and I know say you know.
Welcome back. That was news there by Susan Achin. It's time to move to the newspapers to get the headlines this morning. And we're starting with the Daily Sun newspaper. The big headline here, COVID-19 lockdown. Buhari to issue new directive as PTF raises the alarm. Shelf plans to reopen varsities, ASU warns. Unilag visitation panel begins sitting amid tight security. That's on page 8. Below the picture nameplate there, NLC Aviation Union speed fire over planned airport concession. That's on page 25. 2 killed, 4 injured as Anambra communities renew hostilities. That's on page 5. And I'll take this last story here. Edo Ondoguba, IGP meets CSOs, pledges police neutrality. That's on page 3. But that does it for the Daily Sun newspaper this morning.
All right, let's quickly move on to this day newspaper to see headlines we have from the National Daily. Excuse me, just above the nameplate. NERC sets rules for operators as new tariffs take off to penalize discos TCN for power rejection under supply. And we have stock market sustained gains with 330 billion naira in August. That can be found on page 6. And the banner headline we have from this day newspaper this morning reads, Buhari laments how bitter squabbles cost APC governorship legislative seats. Oshibanjo chairs committee to foster cordiality among executive legislature party. All right, and then beside the picture story, we have IG pledges neutrality, professionalism in Edo Ondo governorship elections. And I take this last one here, fighting for Nigeria, heroes of the battle against COVID-19. You can check page 40 and page 45 of this day newspaper. That does it for this day newspaper this morning.
All right, moving to the Business Day newspaper, the big headline here. With new service reflective tariff, investor interest in power sector grows. That's on page 30. The inside story there. Nigeria requires competitive ports to reboot economy, create jobs. That's on page 2. And I'll take this last story here for the front newspaper of the Business Day. Multinationals stuck with Naira, they don't need find way of beating dollar crunch. That's on page 31. That's all for the Business Day newspaper.
And let's quickly take a look at the Daily Times this morning for headlines from that national daily. We take it from the top to the bottom, and just at the top of the front page of the Daily Times, we have the editorial story which reads, The coup in Mali, matter arising. And then the banner headline from the Daily Times this morning, recession looms amid debt crisis, forest scarcity, others. You can check page 2 of the Daily Times for details of that particular story. And I'll take this one here below the picture story. Manufacturers demand a review of Central Bank of Nigeria policy. Why banks must maintain human element amid surge in digital solution. And then I'll take this last one here. Marvelous Mavin Hagler on boxing, life after retirement, racism, others. Pick a copy of the Daily Times for details of these stories and even more.
All right, let's take a look at the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning. COVID-19, universities still unsafe to reopen. That's coming from ASU. The university is still unsafe. So I was listening to someone this morning. The person was saying, if markets can be opened, if all protocols could have been thrown into the air, why would you say schools should not fully resume now?
I'm actually taking that particular statement, take my mind back to where I saw some protests from students demanding for resumption of these higher institutions. And then I hope this doesn't result to a chaos for us to come out to say this. In a nutshell, we have to look at the side of people saying if markets and every other places,
churches, where children still go to those churches with their parents, can reopen.
We have to consider that, and then consider the fact that from the side of the students too, that the government is also trying to see how safe we can be. Don't forget that we are the leaders of tomorrow.
All right, you said it all. Well, another boat mishap claims 2 in Lagos. That's on page 14. Below that, airport unions reject federal government's plan to concession 4 airports. Work ongoing at Akanu Ibiam Airport. Southeast governors or Haneze react. That's on page 2 and 26 of the Nigerian Tribune. Still below that, reps have not breached any law over suspension of pro panels. That's coming from Biaja Biamila. That's on page 26. And I'll go above that. Father of Ibadan rape victim develops mental problem. That's on page 26 there. Too much squabbling in APC. That's coming from Buhari. That's on page 23. And I'll take the inside stories here. Probe Ruga funds, Otom tells EFCC. That's on page 2. Beside that, Edopo, Igini slams $1 billion libel suit on APC campaign media chief. That's on page 25. Now I'll take this last story. Kogi, Bello wins as Supreme Court dismisses WADA Akpoti's appeal. That's on page 25. We talked about that earlier in the program.
Yeah, sure.
That does it for the Nigerian Tribune this morning.
All right, and up next for review is the Guardian newspaper with the following headlines. Debate rages as governments eye excess digital profit. That's actually the banner headline from that publication. And then the follow-up to that reads, MNO claim 5.75 trillion naira tax payments since 2001. Sector decries impact of 39 taxes, levies. Excess profit already taxed, says FIRS. Upward review will turn off investors, economists insist. I will have a story here concerning school resumption with the caption, School resumption raises fresh concern. Teachers, parents lament state of public schools. Health experts worry over students with health conditions. And if you look below the picture story, you see the following headlines. Supreme Court dismisses PDP Wada's appeal, returns Bello as Kogi governor. That can be found on page 3 of this publication, the Guardian newspaper. And beside that, PTF rolls out COVID-19 protocols for airline passengers. And I'll take this last one here. Aviation workers NLC protest against planned concession of airport. Check page 4 of the Guardian newspaper for details of that particular story. And you can do it by picking a copy of the Guardian newspaper to check out the details of these stories we just brought your way.
All right, so that does it for the newspaper review this morning. We'll move over to Africa to get the news.
Welcome to News Across Africa on Daybreak Africa. Now, the historic peace agreement to end the 17-year war in Sudan, particularly in Darfur, where hundreds of thousands of people have been killed, was signed on Monday by Sudanese authorities and several rebel movements. The agreements were done in 2 stages at a ceremony in Juba, southern Sudan. First, the rebel movement in Darfur, where the war that began in 2003 left at least 300,000 people dead and 2.5 million people displaced in the first few years, according to the United Nations. And then the rebel movement in the southern Kordofan and Blue Nile, where the war has affected 1 million people. Between the passage of each group of signatories, a singer accompanied by an orchestra sang traditional songs. For the authorities, it was in khaki military uniform that Mohamed Hamdan Daglo, Vice President of the Sovereignty Council, signed the agreement. The June 5 opposition movement that saw numerous Malian citizens in the streets of Bamako calling for the resignation of the now ousted ex-president Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta proposed a transition back to civilian power of 8 to 24 months to the military coup leaders who ousted him. Issa Kaujim, M5 RFP Strategic Committee member, spoke to the press where he said that the army was for the people and by the people, so their inclusivity was well understood, but it was good to create a framework for consultation. The text has not been published, but the M5 proposes a transition of 8 to 24 months with civilians heading a transitional presidency, government and assembly, one of its leaders, Choge Meiga, told Newsmail. The Corners promised this transition of duration as yet unspecified, and the M5 claims to be, along with the military, the main protagonist, commensurate with the role it played in the fall of former President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, known as IBK, on August 18. The Economic Community of West Africa States has already threatened immediate sanctions only to be lifted upon the National Committee for the Salvation of People junta carrying out a successful transition within a year. Now, the Libyan government has appointed a new defense minister and army chief in Libya on Saturday. This followed the suspension of the country's interior minister, Fathi Bashaga, which was announced hours earlier by the United Nations recognized Government of National Accord in the aftermath of the incident that saw military men open fire on peaceful demonstrators last week. Fathi Bashaga, Libya's suspended interior minister, stood firmly in his stance, saying, in quote, "I will not side with the corrupted people, even if this act will make me lose my position. I curse this position and all position if it's left us side with the corrupted." End quote. Hundreds of Libyan youth manifested around Matthias Square in the capital city Tripoli for the 3rd day in a row. They took to the streets to decry deteriorating living conditions, poor public services and corruption, raising their voices for their country, which has endured almost a decade of violent chaos since 2011. Now, the Congo's opposition leader, Jean-Marie Michel Moukoko, returned to Brazzaville on Sunday after a month's medical attention in Turkey. The 73-year-old general, who ran against President Denis Sassou Nguesso in the 2016 polls, was imprisoned for 20 years in 2019 on charges for compromising national security and unlawful possession of arms and ammunition. On July 2, was first admitted to a military hospital in Congo due to overall fatigue and loss of appetite. The authorities then allowed him to fly to Ankara on July 30, following weeks of negotiations. A prison source said he would be returned to his cell after being checked by doctors. Prosecutors had accused Moukoko and several co-defendants of amassing arms as far back as 2005 in the aim of overthrowing Sassou Nguesso's government. He was arrested later in June 2016 and subsequently tried. For many of Moukoko's supporters and observers, the prosecution was an attempt by Sassou Nguesso, who has ruled the Central African nation for all but 5 of the past 38 years, to use the court to stifle dissent. Impassioned protests by thousands in the Mauritian capital on Saturday over the perceived mishandling of the OSPs caused from the 1,000 tons fuel-carrying Japanese Wakashio, which was shipwrecked in the waters off the coast of the island in July and consequently put the nation in a state of environmental emergency. The recent discovery of around 39 lifeless dolphins washing up ashore has wholly added even more fuel to an already charged situation as residents took to the streets in peaceful protest to demand that the government do right by the citizens in resolving the ecological crisis accordingly. Many believe it is necessary for the sake of future generations in a country whose economy relies heavily on those now contaminated water for tourism and food production. That is the most we can take on news across Africa. Daybreak Africa continues shortly.
Welcome back. That was news across Africa there. So it's time to move to our next segment on the program, which is the healthy living. So let's move to the healthy living desk now to see what they have for us this morning.
Welcome to Healthy Living. We help you to live a healthy life. On today's episode, we'll be talking about metabolism and how it affects us. Metabolism is the process the body uses to convert food into energy. We each burn calories in our own ways and our own rates, and those rates can change over time. Rate of cellular oxidation. This refers to the rate at which cells convert food into energy. Some people are fast oxidizers who can rapidly convert food into energy. In order to balance their systems, fast oxidizers need to eat heavier proteins and fats that burn slowly. In contrast, slow oxidizers convert food into energy at a slow rate. In order to balance their systems, they eat mainly carbohydrates rather than protein and fat. 3 general metabolic types. Protein types. Protein types are fast oxidizers or parasympathetic dominant. They tend to be frequently hungry, crave fatty, salty foods, fail with low-calorie diets, and tend towards fatigue, anxiety, and nervousness. Carbotypes. Carbotypes are slow oxidizers or sympathetic dominant. They generally have relatively weak appetites, a high tolerance for sweets, problems with weight management, and type A personalities. Mixed types. Mixed types are neither fast or slow oxidizers and are neither parasympathetic or sympathetic dominant. They generally have average appetites, cravings for sweet and starchy foods, relatively little trouble with weight control, and tend towards fatigue, anxiety, and nervousness. What to eat? The 3 metabolic types have very different lists of commendable foods. Protein types. These people need a diet that is rich in oils and high proteins such as organ meats, beef, duck meat, poultry, and seafood including salmon, tuna, herring, and mussels. Protein types can also eat fats such as egg, whole milk, cream, and whole milk cheese. The carbohydrate intake should be low with a focus on complex carbs, whole grains, vegetables over simple ones, sugary, starchy foods. They should aim for a macronutrient balance of 40% protein, 30% fats, and 30% carbs at each meal. Carbo types. These types need a diet that is high in carbohydrates and low in protein, fats, and oils. They eat low purine proteins such as turkey and chicken, light meat only, and lighter fish like haddock, perch, sole, and flounder. Carbo types should stick with low-fat dairy products and eat lots of vegetables, fruits, and whole grains. They don't need to load up on refined carbs. Their ideal macronutrient balance is 60% carbs and about 20% of both fats and protein. Mixed types. People classified as mixed types should eat a mixed diet, one that is a mixture of high fat, high purine proteins and low fat, low purine proteins such as eggs, yogurt, tofu, and nuts. This type requires relatively equal ratios of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. That is much we have for today on healthy living. Remember, a healthy body is a wealthy soul.
Okay, welcome back. That was the healthy living index there on metabolism. So, you know, each and every time we talk about how food to take in that can metabolize on time, because it will help our system a lot.
You know, when you say metabolism, and you know, speaking from your educational background, people might not really get it well.
Oh,
we're talking about breaking down of food substances from their natural state.
Yes, and you know, not just food, not just food alone, even drugs itself. You know how you cannot combine so much drugs together, because if you combine them, there has its own reaction. Because some drugs, just like how you can eat egg and it doesn't digest on time, it's the same way some drugs, their reaction is not like the end point, it doesn't metabolize, and just like ampliclos, that's the antibiotics. If you take an antibiotics now, it's likely to still remain in your system for about 2 to 3 days. You understand? So you should know the right time to take some things and the wrong time to take some things.
Wow.
I don't want to go into details.
All right, let's launch our next package, which is on Amazing Africa, and we're beaming our searchlight on mango farming in Kenya.
Let's go to Kenya.
Akueni, rural eastern Kenya. Dawn breaks and men are already getting busy. Their mission? To hunt down every mature mango from the richly endowed orchards. Jackson Musyoka is one of the most sought-after harvesters here.
When we wake up in the morning, we meet with the boys at a place called Beach. We have breakfast, then we get into a pickup headed to the farms, where we start picking mangoes. The person picking the mangoes has to be an expert. We do not just allow anybody, because if I come pick mangoes from a farmer and I leave them, he will not be satisfied and it's not right.
Most of the mango trees around this area are not so tall, making it easier to reach by hand.
When you harvest a mango, you make sure you turn it upside down like this, because its juice is acidic and might burn the surface.
His expertise in the field came with Rockefeller Foundation's Yieldways initiative, whose goal is to halve post-harvest losses by the year 2030. TechnoServe, a grantee of the program, has been empowering mango farmers in his community through capacity building, as well as offering trainings and exposure visits. Since the initiative started, they have replaced old harvesting techniques with new ones.
There is a big difference because when we started we had no knowledge, but as for now, the TechnoServe people have brought us knowledge. Long time ago, we used to go harvest mangoes. Some were high up in the tree, so we could take a stick and hit while somebody else waits to receive the mango. Nowadays, we have been impacted with the skills, and we pray that the same people teaching may continue instilling knowledge in us.
The harvester tool has made life so easy, especially for farmers with tall trees.
These ones are already dead. I put this here less than 2 days ago. It attracts a fruit fly, and once it gets in, it dies. Now see, the mangoes are clean because of these traps.
If you leave your orchard to fruit fly infestation, you would lose almost 99% of the entire yield. Because what the fruit fly does, it's survival. It wants to survive, and by the time it's dying, it wants to hatch its eggs on a medium or on some fruits, such that when those eggs hatch, they will be able to produce new offsprings. So, but meanwhile, in the process, when it's laying its eggs on the fruit, there's also some bacterial substance which is introduced on the fruit, and this one leads to the fruit rotting, and eventually that fruit does not find itself to the market, because again it's a loss. It's a loss, and especially to the smallholder farmer, when he wakes up one morning and he finds his orchard fruits just falling like that, and they cannot access to the market. Bearing in mind the investment that the farmer has done, it's quite a blow to the smallholder farmer. Yes.
These crates are also a new addition to the post-harvest loss control mechanisms. They replace the initial plastic bags, which will accommodate more than 200 fruits, causing breakage. With the Yieldwise initiative already bearing fruit in Makueni, smallholder farmers hope that they can recover from the losses they made before.
All right, welcome back. That's for Amazing Africa. So moving to the next segment, which is a Vox Pop on if you can marry an older woman. I didn't mean if Elvis can marry an older woman. I mean if you can marry an older woman.
Questions. So, you know, this type of movement actually it's surrounded by questions. Like when you pop that big question, and now you're not popping a question for somebody who's about to pop the big question.
This pop. Anyhow, let's get the views from the people on the streets.
But for a man that is younger than you, can you marry him?
You know, sometimes this African thing sets in. Like, after all, you are older than me and all of that. If you take that off his mind, of course we can flow.
So you don't think that at any point in time you will start disrespecting him because you're older than him?
No. If the love is there, of course you should know that he is the man and he is the head. You know, being the husband, he is the head. Even if I'm older, I should know that I'm a woman, I'm supposed to submit.
Can you marry a woman older than yourself?
Yeah, I can.
Why? How?
Because my last relationships, I've not really been a relationship person, but I did try. My last two girlfriends were older than me. One was 30, the other was 32.
And how old are you?
I'm 26.
So the other was like 4 years older?
The other 4 years and 5 years older.
Wow, and how was it? How was the experience?
It was okay. Like, the issues I had with the last one was basically distance. Like, she really traveled out and, you know.
Okay, but there was no maybe disrespect or anything?
But I think, so far, I don't think, for me, probably because I studied sociology, so I really don't see things that way. I feel loving someone has nothing to do with age. Okay, consider the president of France now, probably. Understand, marry someone who is more older than you, know, because they can't afford someone who's. So it's just, I think it's who you feel the vibe with. So sure, if I see someone who's more older than me, why not I can?
Would you mind marrying somebody, a lady? And you know how our African society is, you know, most times the guy is older. But would you mind marrying somebody that's older, that is younger than you as a woman?
Yeah, age is a number, but it doesn't cover. I don't do that.
Okay, can you give any reason, like maybe just any instance or any reason why?
That's because of the commercial, yeah. And the age difference is much, but his thinking style and mine wouldn't be the same, so I wouldn't want to go for that.
Well, different reactions there coming from different people. If they can marry a woman that is older than themselves, well, some will be able to, and some will not be able to, and it depends on reasons.
Especially for people who feel age is just a number.
Yeah. But I was telling Susan the other day, these days we have lots of opportunists. So if the problem that they are marrying people older than their age is not because of love. Anyhow, you not hear anything from my mouth. So moving to the next package, we see a documentary on the rising cases of rape in the country. Let's listen to that.
Or a victim may be an adult of either gender or a child. True, rape can occur in same-sex intercourse. It is most often committed by a male against a female. All time in many rape trials, the guilt or innocence of the accused hinges on whether or not the victim consented to sexual intercourse. The determination of consent often leads to distressing cross-examination of rape victims in court. In relation with consent, the age of consent to sexual intercourse is commonly set in most countries at between 14 and 18 years, but respectively at age 18 in Nigeria. Vera Uwa Omozwa got raped and murdered in a church where she went to read. Barakat Bello got raped and murdered but in her house. Jennifer also suffered the same fate. Ochania, who died of complications from the prolonged rape, and there are many more underreported cases of rape and domestic violence in the country. The recent rise of rape cases reflects a harsh reminder that no place is considered as the safest, not even our religious homes, as seen in the case of Vera, who was raped and murdered right in the church. Talk more of our educational institutions, like we saw in the case of a 4-year-old Nigerian girl who was suffering from prolonged assault and rape while seeking education. And this is unfortunately sad and scary.
We ride my leg, we cover my mouth, tell me to shut up. After break, it's time to wash my hands.
Anytime I want to go and drop her, I used to drop her early in the morning, sometimes after 7. So I will drop her for this uncle, the owner of the school. Sometimes we will sit down the side of the school, he will ride Okada and go and open the door for us. And I will hand over her to him. I will say, thank you, sir, I'm going to take care of her. So I will left. After 3 days, which is the very day of this incident, on the 25th of February. So I went to school to pick her. This very day, they didn't bring her out to know that you know what he's doing. So I waited for this man. I didn't see him, so I said I should go. When I now get to school, this girl, the temperature was very hot, and he cannot even talk to me. Anytime I went to school to pick her, she's the last slow rider to finish, and it will be sweating. And this girl can ride faster too. I will be wondering, why are you being this last? All the students have gone home. You will remain in class. When I now get home now with her uniform, I open her. She cannot even eat. Everywhere, from God is hearing me. Everywhere, nowhere remain inside her vagina, from up to down.
At the course of launching the sex offenders register as part of the government's strategy to deal with the issue of rape in the country in December 2019, Mrs. Pauline Talon, Nigeria's Minister for Women's Affairs and Social Development, claimed that about 2 million Nigerians, mainly women and girls, are raped every year. The figures, although not proven, shows that no progress has been made in the combat against women's sexual violation. In similar light, the Minister of Women's Affairs and Social Development also made a shocking revelation during a courtesy visit to the Deputy Senate President, Ovie Omo Agege, in July 2020, that at least 3,600 rape cases were recorded during the lockdown enforced due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Even so, due to security fears at internally displaced persons camps, some women and girls have reportedly become vulnerable to sexual exploitation in the form of rape and survivor sex.
We are reaching out to all the state houses of assembly as well as the National Assembly, and with this collaboration now, the experiences of the Inspector General of Police and NAPTIP will be factored into how we can help them in revisiting the laws so that their work will be made a little bit easier, so that those who are rapists will be held accountable.
In relation, a protection assessment report published in May 2016 by the Borno State Protection Sector Working Group comprising national and international aid providers identified sexual exploitation, rape and other sexual abuses as a major concern in 14 camps out of these 26 camps hosting IDPs in Borno State. Due to fear of stigmatization, most rape victims go unreported in Nigeria. But not until a bill seeking to end stigmatization of victims of rape was pushed by the Senate sometime in June 2020. The bill seeks to uphold and protect the fundamental right to dignity and freedom of association as provided by the 1999 Constitution. The bill is titled Rape and Insurgency Victims Stigmatization Prohibition Bill 2019. It is being sponsored by Senator Mohammed Sani Musa. Despite current campaigns against rape, other forms of sexual abuse in the country, quite a number of perpetrators of rape walk about freely on the streets after committing the dastardly act due to poor investigation and inherent shortcomings in the criminal justice system. A month ago, a protest was held against sexual violence, which was organized by some concerned Nigerians. They took the protest to the police headquarters in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, where they charged the police to do in more prosecution and conviction of rape victims.
I'm a woman, I'm a human being. I've suffered different kinds of violence related to sexual and gender-based violence. And so I'm here to call on the government to declare a state of emergency on sexual and gender-based violence. We are tired of dying. We are tired of all of this. We want to be treated as human beings. We shouldn't count only during elections. We should count before election.
If people keep abusing women and little girls, it shows that our country and our community have lost it. I believe that as a family unit, we need to go back and start educating boys. How are we raising our boy child?
Even so, police spokesman Frank Mba claimed the police force were prepared and taking necessary steps to charge rape victims, and also asked the families of the victims equally to be committed to getting justice for their victims.
We must end the connivance of relatives to shut down police investigation and to shut down prosecutions. We have seen so many cases where we have tidied up investigations involving rapes, only for the victim's family to turn around, reconcile and strike a deal with the suspects, and then they come back to the police to say they are no longer interested in the prosecution. And even when we insist on prosecuting, whether they support us or not, they get to the court and they turn around to become hostile witnesses.
A situation where a rape victim goes to the police to report, and the policeman or woman tells the victim to go and sort it out at home, as it is a domestic case. And the implications of such response are the victims are left at the feet of the society without protection.
We have to tackle the mindset of the people who are perpetrating this crime. There's a disconnect somewhere.
what is predisposing them to becoming rapists? It's either when they tried it when they were younger, people hid it in silence and kept quiet about it. But we say, don't further stigmatize the victims. Begin to shame the perpetrators of this rape. Bring them out to the open, put them to shame, and when people label them as rapists, their names are in documents. This might be a way of curbing or making sure people, the ones who are coming, the younger ones who are coming behind, will not indulge in such acts.
Looking at Nigeria today, irrespective of the laws, we have recorded low convictions for crimes against women. A criminal, even after much understanding of the punishment for a particular crime, will still commit the crime after he finds that there has been a poor rate of convictions of that particular crime. The time has come for us as a nation to stand up together against this crime. It is time to do something about it. Away from the conversations, we need a highly deterrent law that is effective enough to curtail these acts of wickedness called rape, so it doesn't become a culture.
Alright, that was a documentary there on the rising cases of rape in the country. So just like the last statement there, away from the conversations, we should actually find a way to curb rape in the society.
Honestly. Alright, it's been an amazing ride on Daybreak Africa, Television Nigeria for this morning. We're leaving you with the hope that tomorrow we'll be back again for an interesting outing, same time, same place. Until then, my name is Elvis Oga. Do stay safe.
Alright, my name is Mercy Joe. Do have a wonderful day and take care of yourself.